The first step into human space. The last warning beacon blinked red against the darkness of space. Its signal repeated in dozens of alien languages, all saying the same thing. Do not enter human space. But the crew of the Vathran's Eye ignored it. They were a scout ship from the Vathri Empire, small, fast, and built for slipping into places others feared to go. Their mission was simple: cross the human border, record data, and return before anyone noticed. Captain Soren leaned back in his chair, his thin green fingers drumming against the armrest. Humans, he muttered with a smirk. Primitive savages who got lucky with technology. The crew laughed. Stories about human victories were seen as exaggerations in the Vathri worlds. No one truly believed these new arrivals to galactic space were as dangerous as the rumors claimed. A ship passed the beacon and slipped into dark, empty territory. No trade routes, no space stations, no civilian ships, just an endless stretch of black. It was unsettling. Even the usual background radio chatter of the galaxy was gone. Only silence remained, thick and heavy. Navigator Tarek frowned at his console. "Captain, I'm detecting nothing," he said slowly. "No planets? No stations?" Sauron snorted. "Of course nothing. Humans are too paranoid to live near their own border." But deep inside, a small thread of unease wound its way into his thoughts. They traveled for 2 hours without seeing a single starship. Then, without warning, the stars ahead of them began to disappear. Not fade, vanish, one by one, as if something massive was blocking the light. "What is that?" The engineer whispered, his voice trembling. The darkness ahead grew wider, swallowing constellations. It wasn't space dust. It wasn't a planet. It was moving. The crew's laughter died. Sauron stood, leaning forward. "Bring up visuals." He ordered. The screen flickered, and their hearts froze. From the void, a massive shape emerged. A ship, but unlike any they had ever seen. It was black. So black, it seemed to drink the light around it. No markings, no registry codes, not even visible windows, only sharp, predatory lines that spoke of speed and power. That can't be human," Tarek whispered. The ship's size was modest, barely 3 times the Vathran's Eye, but their scanners screamed impossible readings. Power levels far beyond any known military vessel. Even at rest, it radiated a pressure that made every alien in the room feel smaller. "Send a hail," Sauron ordered. The comm officer tapped the controls, sending a standard greeting in Vathari. Galactic trade and human languages. They waited. No response. The black ship drifted closer, utterly silent. Then, without any visible thrusters, it slid into a perfect parallel position beside them. The Vathran's Eye crew could feel it watching them. It was like being in the presence of a predator that didn't need to rush. Every instinct screamed at them to run. "Should we turn back?" the helmsman asked, sweat glistening on his scaled forehead. Soren's pride flared. "No, they're bluffing. Humans don't own space this far out." As if in answer, the black ship's hull shifted. Panels moved silently, revealing what looked like weapon ports, but the designs were strange. No barrels, no visible ammo feeds, only smooth openings that pulsed with faint blue light. The ship wasn't aiming. It was already locked, before anyone could react. The Vathran's Eye's consoles lit up. A message appeared, not in sound, but directly on every screen. "Follow, or be erased." The crew stared, their blood running cold. It wasn't a threat written in rage. It was a statement of fact. Soren's mouth went dry. "Helm, follow them," he ordered reluctantly. The black ship didn't wait. It turned, gliding through the empty dark, and the Vathran's Eye followed like prey, shadowing a predator. No one spoke. The silence outside seemed to press against the hull. As they traveled deeper into human space, more strange readings appeared. Massive energy signatures pulsed faintly on the edges of their scanners. But every time they tried to focus, the signals vanished. It was as if the humans had wrapped there. territory in layers of invisible defenses. The crew's nervousness grew with every passing minute. Then the black ship slowed through the forward viewport. The aliens saw something ahead, a faint shimmer in the darkness. Like heat rising from metal, the shimmer grew until it became a wall of shifting light stretching from one end of space to the other. It was not natural. It was a barrier, and the humans were leading them straight through it. The Vathran's eye crossed the threshold. Inside, the stars burned brighter, the space lanes filled with silent, enormous shapes, dozens of warships, each more advanced than anything the Vathari Empire possessed. Every one of them turned slightly as the alien ship entered. Not attacking, but watching, Soren swallowed hard. This was a mistake, he whispered. The black ship stopped ahead of them, and for the first time, a human voice came over the comms, calm and steady. "Welcome to human space, Captain," the voice said. "You won't be leaving the same, asterisk." The ship with no name, the black warship, floated ahead of the Vathran's eye. Silent as death, its dark hull absorbed the light, making it look more like a shadow than a real object. There were no identification marks, no insignia, nothing that tied it to any known human fleet. It felt ancient and new at the same time. As if it carried centuries of war in its bones, Captain Soren studied it through the main viewport, even without firing a single shot. The ship radiated a warning, a kind of warning predators give without words. It wasn't here to threaten them. It didn't need to. The crew whispered among themselves, their voices tight with fear. The communications officer tried again to open a channel, hailing the vessel. "No reply, Captain," she said, her hands shaking. Her screen flickered, and for a moment, strange symbols appeared. They were human letters, but rearranged in a way that made no sense. As quickly as they appeared, they vanished. The alien engineer leaned closer to his console. "I'm reading something impossible," he muttered. "This ship's power core. It's too small for these readings." Soren frowned. "Meaning?" The engineer swallowed. "Meaning. Whatever's powering that thing could run an entire star system." The Vathran's eye kept pace, though every instinct told the crew to run. The black ship moved with perfect precision, no wasted motion. It didn't use visible thrusters, yet it could change direction faster than anything the Vathari had ever built. It was like it was gliding on invisible rails. Suddenly, the Vathran's eye's scanners lit up again. Massive contacts surrounded them, ships, stations, weapon platforms. None of them had been visible moments before. The black ship must have been leading them through cloaked defenses. It wasn't just one ship. It was the gatekeeper of an entire hidden armada. Tarek, the navigator, stared at his screen. "Captain, one count over 200 vessels in range. All human." Soran turned sharply. "That's impossible. Humans don't have this many ships." He stopped, because deep down, he knew the truth. The galaxy had never really known how many ships humans had. The black vessel slowed, drifting beside them until both ships faced a massive structure ahead. It wasn't a planet. It wasn't a station. It was a fortress hanging in the void, shaped like a great black ring with fire burning at its core. Hundreds of defense cannons lined its surface. Its scale made the Vathran's eye feel like an insect. The crew stared in silence until the new signal pulsed through their systems. It wasn't audio. It was a short, sharp burst of code. When decoded, it read only 4 words. "You are being measured." "What does that mean?" The helmsman whispered. No one answered. The black ship rotated slowly and positioned itself beside the fortress. A section of the ring opened like a great iris, revealing a corridor of light. The humans were inviting them in. Soren clenched his jaw. "Take us inside," he ordered. The Vathran's eye drifted forward, entering the corridor. The walls shimmered with strange patterns, almost like moving water. Every few seconds, the crew felt a faint vibration through the deck. Something was scanning them, not just the ship, but their minds. As they passed deeper into the ring, smaller human ships flitted past. They were sleek, silver, and fast, like hunters circling prey. Every one of them turned to watch the Vathran's eye. It was not the gaze of curiosity. It was the gaze of judgment. The corridor ended in a vast, open hangar. The walls glowed with soft blue light, and the air shimmered as if it were alive. At the far end, a single figure stood waiting, tall, armored, and human. The face was hidden behind a reflective visor, yet somehow the crew could feel the human's eyes on them. The comms activated without being touched. A voice filled the ship, calm and steady. "You have entered without invitation," it said. "You will now understand what that means," Soren tried to respond, but no words came. The human raised a hand. A section of the hangar floor shifted, revealing a ramp that extended to the Vathran's eye. It was not a request. It was a summons. The crew looked to their captain. Soren's throat tightened. "Prepare to meet them," he said. The words sounded brave, but inside, he wondered if this was the last order he would ever give. As the ramp locked into place, the black ship outside. The hangar remained motionless. It didn't follow them inside. It didn't need to. Its presence alone was enough to remind them. If they tried to run, they wouldn't get a second chance. The alien captain took his first step toward the human. And in that moment, the thought struck him like a blade. The black ship had no name, because it didn't need one. Every being who saw it already knew exactly what it was. Death, asterisk, the silent invitation. The hangar was silent. Too silent. No engine hum. No footsteps. No sound of air recyclers. Only the faint hiss of the Vathran's eye settling on the landing. Platform. Captain Soren stepped forward cautiously. The human figure stood at the far end. Unmoving, the reflective visor showed no face. But somehow the crew felt those unseen eyes study every twitch, every breath. The air inside the hangar was warmer than the cold void outside, carrying a strange metallic scent. Captain Soren of the Vathari Empire. The voice came again, not from the human's helmet, but from every wall around them. It was calm, steady, yet layered with an authority that crushed any thought of defiance. "You crossed into human space without invitation," the voice said, "and now you will see what lies beyond." The human turned without waiting for a reply and began walking toward a door at the side of the hangar. There was no gesture for them to follow, no command to move, yet the message was clear, come. Soren glanced back at his crew, then stepped forward. The others followed, their footsteps echoing faintly on the smooth floor. The door opened without touch, revealing a corridor bathed in pale blue light. It stretched ahead in a perfect line. The walls covered in flowing patterns of light that seemed to shift like ocean currents. As they walked, the patterns changed shape. At first, they looked like random designs. Then Soren realized they were showing images, battles, ships, planets burning. All of them had one thing in common. Humans were always the last ones standing. The human guide never looked back. They walked with the steady pace of someone who knew exactly where they were going, and with the confidence of someone who knew no one would dare to stop them. After several minutes, the corridor ended at a massive observation deck. The glass stretched from floor to ceiling, revealing a view that made the crew's hearts freeze. Below them lay a fleet unlike anything in the galaxy, warships of every size, sleek and black, each radiating an energy signature far beyond the Vathri's best. They moved in perfect formation, silent, disciplined, no wasted movement, no signs of disorder. "This," the voice said from the walls again, "is the first layer of our defense." Soren's breath caught. First layer? The ships below could wipe out entire sectors, and this was only the beginning. The human guide finally spoke from behind the visor. "You came here thinking humans were weak, scattered, easy prey," they said. "You were wrong," Soren opened his mouth, but before he could reply, The glass darkened, the view shifted, showing a different part of human space. It was a graveyard of ships, alien ships from dozens of species, all broken and abandoned. Their hulls bore the marks of weapons the Vathari had never seen. Some were burned through in perfect circles, others torn apart as if ripped by invisible claws. "This is what happens when others enter without permission," the human said. "And yet, you are still alive." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The human walked to a console at the center of the room, pressing a single control. A door at the far side opened, revealing a lift bathed in crimson light. Without words, the human stepped. Inside, the message was the same as before: follow, or don't return. Soran's legs felt heavier with each step. The lift descended, smooth and silent. When the doors opened again, they were in a cavernous chamber filled with holographic maps. The maps showed human space, but in layers, defense lines, hidden strongholds, weapon platforms the size of moons, and beyond all of it, unmarked zones deep within, places even the maps avoided labeling. Soran realized something then. The humans weren't just guarding their borders. They were hiding something they didn't want the galaxy to see. The human turned toward them once more. "You will go deeper," they said. "Few outsiders have walked where you are about to walk." There was no pride in their voice, no boast, only the cold certainty of someone leading strangers into the heart of something they would never fully understand. The crew followed into another corridor, narrower, darker. This one had no shifting lights, only faint red lines along the walls. The further they walked, the more the air felt heavier. It pressed against their lungs, not painfully, but enough to remind them they were far from home. At last, they reached another door. The human stopped. Placing a hand against the panel, it slid open with a hiss, revealing only blackness beyond. The human stepped aside, gesturing toward it for the first time. Soran looked into the dark and felt his skin crawl. "What is in there?" he asked. The human's visor turned toward him. "The truth," they said simply. And with that, the invitation was complete, silent, undeniable. The only choice left was whether to step forward or turn back and face whatever waited outside. Asterisk. The human's offer. The darkness swallowed them whole. The instant they stepped through the door, the air changed, thicker, warmer, as if the space itself was alive. Soft lights flickered to life along the walls, revealing a vast chamber that stretched so far it seemed to have no end. In the center stood a single table, smooth and black, reflecting their shapes like a still pool of water. The human guide waited. At the far side, visor still hiding their face, without speaking, they gestured for Soran to approach. The captain's steps echoed in the empty chamber, each one louder than it should have been. The silence here wasn't just absence of sound. It felt like a pressure, pushing them to listen to every word that would follow. "You came here seeking advantage." The human's voice filled the chamber, steady and cold. "Knowledge of our borders, our fleets, our weaknesses." They leaned forward slightly. "You found none." Soran's jaw tightened. "We did not," he began, but the human cut him off. "Do not lie," they said. "The walls here remember more than your words." The lights shifted, casting the crew in a pale white glow. On the table, images appeared. The Vathran's eye crossing the border beacon, the crew laughing at the idea of human danger. Soran smirking in his captain's chair. Every word they'd spoken was here, replayed in cold silence. "This," the human said, "is why we do not welcome visitors." They tapped the table, and the images changed. Alien fleets burning, planets turned to glass, weapons the crew had never seen, all of them carried out by human hands. Soran tried to hide his unease. "What do you want from us?" he asked. The human tilted their head slightly. "What I offer is simple," they said. "Leave with a message for your leaders. Or stay and learn what cannot be unseen." Asterisk, the crew shifted uncomfortably. Some exchanged glances, silently begging the captain to choose the first option, but others, curiosity burning brighter than fear, waited for him to ask more. Soren stepped closer to the table. "And if we stay?" The human's visor reflected him back, small, almost insignificant against the black armor. "If you stay, you will see what lies beneath human space." The voice said, "You will see what we guard, and why the galaxy will never be ready." For it, the words carried no threat, yet Soren felt his stomach tighten. This was no bluff. The humans had led them here for a reason, not to kill them. At least, not yet, but to show them something that would either change them forever or destroy them. "You have 1 minute," the human said. "Choose?" The room fell silent again. The faint hum of the table was the only sound. Soren could feel every eye on him, his crew's trust and fear, pulling in opposite directions. He could turn back now, leave this place, survive, but return home with nothing but shame. Or he could step deeper, risking everything. His decision formed before he realized it. He straightened his shoulders and met the faceless visor. "We stay," he said, his voice firm. The human's head tilted slightly, almost in approval. "Good." The voice replied, "Then follow me, and do not fall behind." The table dissolved into nothing, the floor beneath them shifting like liquid. A new passage opened ahead, spiraling downward into darkness. Cold air drifted up from below, carrying a scent that none of them recognized. Sharp, metallic, almost electric. The human stepped into the descent without hesitation. Soren followed, each step feeling heavier than the last, because deep down he knew the truth. They had just agreed to see the heart of human space, and whatever waited there would not let them leave unchanged. Asterisk. The trial of the descent felt endless. The spiral corridor twisted deeper into the heart of the structure, walls closing in just enough to make the air feel heavier. The faint red lines along the walls pulsed like a heartbeat, slow and steady. Each step seemed to echo louder than the last. No one spoke. Even the sound of breathing felt too loud in this place. Finally, the path opened into a vast chamber. The floor was smooth black stone, cold underfoot. Above them, the ceiling was lost. In shadow, at the center, stood a single circular platform, raised slightly, with thin streams of light falling onto it from somewhere unseen. The human guide stopped at the edge, visor turning toward Soren. "This," the voice said, calm and absolute, "is where we decide if you belong here." Soren's crew shifted. Uneasily, "What is this place?" he asked. The humans stepped closer to the platform. "This is the trial," they replied. "Every intruder must face it, and pass or be erased." The word erased hung in the air like a blade. Soren's. Second officer swallowed hard. "What kind of trial?" she asked quietly. The human tilted their heads slightly. "One that knows you better than you know yourself." Without warning, the platform lit up beneath their feet. A low hum filled the chamber, rising in pitch until it was just at the edge. Of pain, Soren felt his chest tighten, his breath quicken. The light around the platform shimmered, and suddenly the chamber was gone. He stood on the bridge of the Vathran's Eye, but something was wrong. The crew were there, yet their eyes were hollow, their faces blank. Outside the viewport, dozens of human warships surrounded them, weapons ready. His console screamed warning after warning. "Captain," a hollow voice said from behind him. Choose what?" Soren demanded. The blank-eyed crew turned toward him, their voices merging into one. "Fight or kneel." The scene shifted violently. Now he stood on his homeworld. The sky burned red, human ships raining fire from above. His city was in flames. Civilians ran through the streets, screaming. A human voice whispered in his ear, "Save them, or save yourself." He turned and found his own reflection staring back at him. But it was not the face he knew. It was older, scarred, with eyes that looked like they'd seen centuries of war. This is who you become if you choose wrong, the reflection said. The ground split beneath his feet, and the world dissolved into darkness again. Sauron's knees hit cold stone. The chamber returned. He was back on the platform, breathing hard. The humans still stood at the edge, visor unreadable. You have been measured, they said, and your intent is clear. Soren's throat was dry. What did you see? He asked. The human didn't answer. Instead, they turned toward the crew. Some of you will leave, they said. Some of you will not. A shiver ran through the group. One of the engineers stepped forward. We passed, didn't we? He asked. The human's visor tilted slightly. No one passes or fails, the voice replied. You are only known. Soren realized then that the trial hadn't been about skill or strength. It had been about stripping them bare, showing the humans exactly who they were inside, and that meant the humans now knew every weakness they carried. The human turned back toward the corridor. Come, they said. It is time for the choice. Asterisk. The choice the corridor after the trial felt colder, not in temperature, but in the way it made the skin tighten. The faint hum of the walls was gone now, replaced by silence so deep it seemed to follow them. The crew's footsteps echoed like they were walking in a hollow shell. At the end of the passage, a door opened into a smaller chamber. It wasn't grand like the others. No glowing walls, no vast windows, just a plain circular room with two exits on the far side. The human stood between them, motionless, visor reflecting the faint light. One path, the voice said, leads back to your ship. The other leads deeper. Soran's crew glanced at each other nervously. And if we choose wrong? One of them asked. The human tilted their head. There is no wrong choice, they replied. Only the choice you can live with, or die for. Words sank in like a cold stone in the gut. Soran stepped forward, his boots scraping against the floor. What's deeper? He asked. The human's reply was simple. What cannot be unseen? One exit pulsed faintly with white light. The other was dark, as if it led into nothing. The crew began to whisper among themselves. Some wanted to take the light and leave this place forever. Others, driven by pride or curiosity, wanted to see what lay beyond the dark. This is madness, the navigator muttered. We've seen enough. We go home, we warn the Empire, we never come back. And what will? You say when they ask why you turned back? One of the engineers shot back. That you were afraid? Soran listened to them argue, his mind heavy with the images from the trial. Those visions hadn't left him. The burning cities, the endless fleets, the reflection of himself he didn't recognize. The humans hadn't shown them everything. They had only given a taste, and that taste was enough to change the fate of worlds. The human's voice cut through the tension like a blade. You have 1 minute, they said. After that, the choice will be made for you. The silence that followed was suffocating. Soran looked at the white-lit path, safe and familiar, then at the dark path, where every instinct screamed danger. And yet, there was something in that darkness that called to him, something that whispered of answers. He turned to his crew. Anyone who wants to leave, take the light, he said. Anyone who follows me. We go into the dark. There was hesitation. 2 crew members stepped toward the white-lit path, their faces pale. The rest, shaken but unwilling to turn back, gathered behind Soran. The human stood aside, giving no sign of approval or judgment. As Soran stepped into the darkness, the air grew colder, heavier. The sound of the other's footsteps faded behind him. The light from the chamber vanished completely, swallowed by the black, and then, faintly ahead, something began to glow. Not white, not red, but a deep, shifting blue, like the light of a dying star. Whatever lay ahead was waiting for them, and it would not be kind. Asterisk. The last look at the stars. The dark tunnel stretched on like it had no end. The faint blue light ahead pulsed slowly. like the heartbeat of something ancient. The air was colder now, sharp in the lungs, carrying a metallic taste that made every breath feel heavier. No one spoke. Even footsteps were quieter, as if the walls swallowed sound whole. When they finally stepped out of the tunnel, the crew froze. They were standing on a narrow observation platform, suspended in a vast chamber so large it could have swallowed cities. Below them was not machinery, not a fleet. It was something alive, a shape the size of a moon coiled in the shadows. Its surface shimmered with patterns of deep blue and black, moving like tides. It had no clear head, no eyes, but they felt it looking at them, a pressure in the mind, heavy and cold. Some of the crew staggered, clutching their heads. It wasn't speaking in words. It was remembering and forcing them to remember too. Flashes burned through their minds. Battles fought long before humans had ships. Stars breaking apart under impossible weapons. Entire empires erased in seconds. And in every vision, the same truth. Humans had not built this thing. They were its keepers. Soren's voice was barely a whisper. What is it? The human guide stepped to the edge of the platform, visor reflecting the creature's glow. This is why no one leaves unchanged, they said. This is why human space is closed. The creature stirred slightly, and the blue light grew brighter. In that moment, Soren understood. If it ever left this place, the galaxy would burn. The humans weren't just guarding territory. They were holding back the end of everything. The human turned toward him. You crossed into our space thinking you could take something, they said. You will leave knowing you are allowed to live. Before Soren could speak, the platform began to move. It carried them back into the tunnel, the blue light fading behind them until it was gone. When they returned to the chamber with the two exits, the white-lit path was the only one open. The human gestured without a word, and Soren led his crew toward it. Those who had taken the light earlier were already gone, their ship prepared for departure. Escorted by the black warship, the Vathran's eye was guided back to the border of human space. Before they crossed, the human's voice came one last time over the comms. Tell your leaders what you saw, they said, and tell them this. There will be no second invitation. The ship crossed the invisible threshold. Every scanner went dead for exactly 60 seconds. When they came back online, human space was gone from the maps. It was as if they had never been there. Soren stood at the viewport, staring at the stars. He knew they could spend lifetimes trying to find that place again, but they would fail. Because humans didn't let you return unless they wanted you to. And now, he finally understood why. He whispered the last truth he would ever speak of that journey. We didn't survive because we were strong, he said. We survived because they allowed it. Asterisk.